Modding San Andreas as a beginner can be difficult. San Andreas is old, and modding has evolved a lot since the beginning, resulting in confusion with a lot of different installation methods, old poorly developed mods still being used, and the general lack of information for beginners on how modifying San Andreas actually works. With this guide, I hope to change that. So welcome to the first episode of the ultimate modding guide for San Andreas. Let's get started. Modding San Andreas isn't like modding Fallout or Skyrim. There isn't a handy tool like Vortex where you simply download a mod on Nexus and it installs with the click of a button. Instead, when modding San Andreas, you'll be handling a lot of modified files yourself, and while it's a lot easier now than it was before, it can still be difficult for beginners to know what file types do what. With this guide, I will cover everything you need to know about modding GTA San Andreas, including preparing your game for mods. You will need to do a few things before you start installing mods for San Andreas, like making sure you're on the correct version of San Andreas. Installing the essentials. This will include an ASI loader, Clio, Modloader, and more. You'll learn more about these soon. Using Modloader. In this guide, we'll cover how to use Modloader in depth, covering how it works and how you can use it. Installing mods and understanding file types. By the end of this guide, you should be able to download any mod you like, see the file types of the mod, understand what the files are for, and instantly know how to install the mod. Solving crashes. It's easy to run into crashes while experimenting with modding your game. By the end of this guide, you should know of several ways to troubleshoot crashes and hopefully solve them using your own knowledge. Make sure you follow exactly what I say during this guide. Even if some parts are slow or you think a specific part doesn't apply to you, just listen and follow along, otherwise you will miss important information and run into issues. If you're deaf, hard of hearing, or simply find my accent difficult to understand, which I wouldn't blame you, this video will have subtitles available, which you can activate through the YouTube UI, hopefully making this guide easier to follow. Also, while this guide is primarily for San Andreas, it should give you a good idea on how to mod GTA 3 and Vice City as well. All three games are very similar to each other, so a lot of things cross over. San Andreas is the most complicated of the three, so once you get used to modding San Andreas, GTA 3 and Vice City will be easy enough. I'd also like to note, sometimes throughout this guide when I launch my own game, you'll see this little window appear for me that you might not have. This is a standard San Andreas feature and it only pops up if you have multiple displays connected to your PC. It allows you to select the display and the resolution before launching the game. It's not a mod, it just requires multiple displays. You won't see this if you only have one monitor. The most important thing to remember, mods get updated over time, and things like installation methods can change. I'll try my best to keep this guide updated with new information if things do change. So before you start each video in this guide, check the pinned comments in the comments section as well as the description for any updates. I'll leave a note in both of those along with timestamps so you know what part of these videos might have changed since they released. If I haven't had a chance to update the pinned comment with the latest information and something is different for you compared to this guide, I'd recommend letting me know on Discord if you want a quick response. I'll leave a link to my server on the screen now. This will also help me keep the guide up to date as I won't always know myself when something changes. Lastly, I will be using Windows 10 throughout this guide. While most things are basically the same on older versions of Windows, it's possible things will be different on newer versions of Windows, such as Windows 11. If you're on Windows 11 or a future version of Windows and something is different compared to this guide, try a quick Google search. You'll most likely get an answer fairly quickly. So, who exactly is this guide for? This guide is primarily for beginners who have zero experience modding GTA games. But the guide can also be used by people who might have an idea of modding but they're not sure about some things, or they just need a refresher course. If you've modded San Andreas before, but you find yourself getting crashes frequently and you're not sure what could be causing it, or you download a mod and you find yourself struggling with what files do what, I would recommend you also start fresh and follow this guide. One final thing before we begin modding our game, if you find this guide helpful in any way, please consider giving the videos a like, as it really helps. If you enjoy GTA modding videos in general and want to see in-depth GTA mod showcases and tutorials, consider subscribing to the channel as well. For the first part of this guide, we're going to set our game up correctly so we can mod. This is very important, as if the game isn't set up correctly, you will run into issues later on when installing mods. So let's start. First off, you need a clean, unmodded copy of San Andreas. If you've already modded your game, reinstall San Andreas and start again with this guide. Second, you need to know where your game folder is located. If you're using the Steam version of San Andreas, you can right-click San Andreas in your Steam library, click Properties, click Local Files, and then click Browse. If you're using the Rockstar Games Launcher version of the game, you can click on Settings in the Rockstar Games Launcher, click San Andreas in your installed games list, then find View Installation folder and click Open next to it. Third, make sure you can view file extensions. This will allow you to view file types for your game files and the mods you download. On Windows 10, click the View tab in File Explorer and make sure File Name Extensions is ticked. On Windows 11, click the View tab in File Explorer, click on Show, and make sure File Name Extensions is ticked. Fourth, you need version 1.0 of San Andreas, specifically the cracked US version of 1.0, often referred to as Hoodlum. Any other versions of San Andreas won't be supported by the majority of mods and your game will crash. Right-click on the game's executable and click Properties. If your game version is 1.0, the game's executable should be 13.7 megabytes in size. That's the clearest indication you're running the correct version. If you just downloaded San Andreas from Steam or the Rockstar Games Launcher, or you're using a DVD copy of the game, you will need to use a downgrader on these versions. I have a video available showing you how to quickly downgrade the game to the correct version for modding. I'll leave a link in the description. Keep in mind, and this is important, saves from newer game versions won't work when you downgrade to version 1.0. The game will simply crash. So you will need to start a new game once you downgrade. If you're using a pirated copy, the downgrader isn't guaranteed to work and you won't be able to follow this guide. Please don't ask for help in the comments if you're using a pirated copy of San Andreas and run into issues. There's nothing I can do and I can only recommend buying it any way you can, which I know can be difficult, but that's the only way I can guarantee it'll work. You can try follow the guide if you like, but again, it's not guaranteed to work. Fifth, make sure your game folder doesn't require admin permission to make changes. 99% of the time, this should only be a problem with the Rockstar Games Launcher version of San Andreas. And if you're using that version, you should have followed my downgrader video, which will show you how to solve this issue. Just to make sure though, this is how you can check whether or not your game folder requires admin permission to make changes. Right-click in your game folder, go to New in the context menu, and if the option to create a new folder has the little shield icon next to it, that means the folder needs admin permission to make changes. If there's no shield icon, you're all set to go. If you do have a shield icon next to the new folder option, I'd recommend copying and pasting the game folder to somewhere else on your system that isn't as restrictive, such as a general games folder outside of program files. You must make sure admin permission is no longer required to modify the folder before following this guide. Mods need to generate files frequently, and a lot of mods simply won't work if they can't do this. Sixth, download and install 7-zip. Make sure you choose the correct version for your computer. A lot of mods will come in archives other than zip files, and you'll need 7-zip to open these archives as Windows can't do it natively. I'll leave a link to 7-zip in the description. Seventh, testing. Test the game to make sure it works by launching the game's executable. You should know about several issues that come with version 1.0 of San Andreas before doing this though. The first issue with version 1.0 is that it has notorious issues with the mouse simply not working at all. So I'd recommend navigating the menu with your keyboard if you get this issue. You can use the directional keys to navigate the menus and the enter and escape key to enter and exit submenus. We'll fix this later with mods. Second, version 1.0 doesn't support 16:9 resolutions, such as 720p, 1080p, or 1440p. So just use another resolution that your display supports. We'll also fix this issue with mods soon. Lastly, make sure you have frame limiter on in your game settings. San Andreas isn't meant to be played at an FPS higher than 30, and the game can freeze if your FPS is too high when loading. When you enable frame limiter, you'll actually notice your FPS is limited to 25 FPS. We will also fix this later with mods, so don't worry about it, just ignore how terrible it feels for now. Okay, so start a new game, run around for a few minutes, and get into a vehicle to make sure the radio and other audio works. Again, make sure you start a new game after you've downgraded, as saves from newer versions of San Andreas will crash on 1.0. Once you have verified the game is running okay, you can continue the guide. If your game is crashing, there's only one possible reason at this point if you followed everything correctly, and that'd be if there's an issue with your settings file. Go to your Documents folder, find your GTA San Andreas user files folder, and then delete GTA_SA.sct. Keep in mind, this will reset your game settings. Run the game again to check if it works. If the game doesn't run at this point, you've likely followed the guide wrong, or you're using a pirated copy of San Andreas, which, as I said before, isn't my fault and there's nothing I can do. And lastly, once you have verified your game is working, simply copy and paste your game folder to back it up. If you somehow break any files, or maybe you want a fresh start on your modding adventure, you will have a clean, downgraded game ready to go. I'd recommend renaming the backup folder too, so you know exactly what it is. So, at this point, you should have a clean, unmodded game. You should know where your game folder is located. You should be able to view file extensions, also known as file types, in File Explorer. You should have your game downgraded to version 1.0. You should know whether or not your game folder requires admin privileges to make changes, and how to fix it if it's an issue. You should have 7-zip installed on your PC. You should have verified that your game is running and there's no crashes after a few minutes of play. You should have a backup of your downgraded game before you've started modding it. Okay, and that's all for part 1. I know you're probably eager to start installing as many mods as you can, but believe me, setting up your game correctly goes a long way for the stability of the game, and it also expands your modding knowledge in general. So this will all be worth it in the end. In the next part of this guide, we're going to install some essential mods. These mods will fix a lot of the issues San Andreas has. Some of them will be necessary for other mods to work, and some of them will make modding your game a lot easier. Anyway, thank you for watching part 1, and I'll see you in the next episode.